Now the last presentation, Triinu Väikmeri, and we will hear Estonian Academy of Arts. Triinu is with professional background interior architecture. Her research focuses on heritage conservation and interwar domestic interiors. Together with Triin Reidla, she contributes to the Estonian national study within the transnational EU repair project under the European Climate Initiative. How is Triinu? Technic will be ready soon. Nice. After Technical University or Art Academy.
Hi everyone, I'm Triinu from Estonian Academy of Arts, and currently I'm working on the EU repair project together with my colleague Triin Reidla. And so today I will present a brief overview of Estonian national study within the EU repair and focusing on the sustainability of valuable built environments. So EU repair is a transnational OIKI 2024 research and toolkit project that develops best practical transferable methods for repairing and reusing everyday life buildings. And in the context of climate change, the project addresses both mitigation and adaptation, repair and reuse, reduce emissions, while strengthening resilience against impacts such as moisture, overheating, and material degradation. The goals of the project are to improve management and decision-making so cultural value is protected and buildings remain in use, to reduce the building sector's carbon footprint by prioritizing repair, reuse, and circular approaches over demolition, to provide hands-on training and tested techniques for local teams to carry out low-impact renovations, to advise on national laws and standards, to enable heritage-sensitive low-carbon action, and to create, test, measure, and improve simple tools for wider future use. And the expected outcome is practical, ready-to-use resources for owners, professionals, and policy makers. This Estonian national study examines how policies, education, funding, and digital tools shape repair-oriented refurbishment of culturally and historically significant buildings. And we're focusing on structures more than 50 years old. The study combines desk research on legislations, standards, and strategies with stakeholder surveys and case studies structured around 5 main themes: repair and maintenance, energy efficient renovation, renewable resources, circular economy, and climate adaptation. Using unified methods and categories across all partner countries ensures comparability and enables for us systematic transnational analysis. So as a central part of this Estonian study was a national survey conducted through a standardized EU repair online questionnaire. And ensuring results could later be compared across partner countries. The survey targeted key stakeholders groups in Estonia, including professionals, officials, and residents of valuable built environment structures. It focused on repair practices, challenges, skills, and sustainability measures. And the responses highlighted recurring issues, like limited training opportunities in repair methods, difficulties in accessing funding for small-scale interventions, and friction in approval processes. At the same time, respondents pointed to the need for clearer guidance, more accessible financial instruments, and better integration of sustainability measures into everyday refurbishment. The findings from the survey provide the factual basis for the Estonian study and feed directly into the transnational analysis and practical recommendations. So policies and legislation set the framework for refurbishment of historical buildings. In Estonia, heritage protection law and building codes safeguard cultural values, while national climate strategies encourage energy efficiency, circularity, and carbon reduction. And EU directives add another layer, requiring member states to integrate sustainability objectives into practice. This mix of national and EU rules creates both opportunities and challenges. Problems arise when regulations are applied too rigidly. Approval processes can become slow, raising costs and discouraging action. Conversely, clear guidance and flexible standards enable reverse, low-impact upgrades. Aligning legislation with sustainability objectives is therefore essential. It allows heritage values to be preserved while also meeting climate goals. Administration determines how policies are put into practice. In Estonia, responsibilities are divided between heritage authorities, building regulators, and municipal offices. When roles are unclear, projects face uncertainty about who makes decisions and how approvals are granted. So permitting is central. Unclear responsibilities and slow delivery often create bottlenecks, raising costs and delaying projects. Owners and professionals reported that poor communication between agencies can stall even routine repair works. But positive examples show that coordination helps. When municipalities provided a single advisory contact or support service, project moved faster and owners felt guided. A one-step service reduces confusion and builds trust. Clear institutional roles and streamlined workflows are crucial. Practical measures should include checklists for routine works, simplified approvals for low-impact interventions, and transparent guide that helps owners understand requirements in advance. Okay. Skills shortages are a major challenge. Estonia has too few specialists in traditional crafts, such as masonry and carpentry, and there is also a need for knowledge in low-carbon renovation techniques. Short vocational modules can provide focused training, while mentoring transfers experience directly on site. Peer exchange, where professionals share methods with colleagues, supports the continuation of traditional expertise. Digital tools also play a role. Online learning platforms make training widely accessible and spread knowledge quickly. Yet practical experience remains essential. Pilot workshops can give participants the chance to apply techniques in real situations and test repair-oriented solutions. A blended approach of training, mentoring, peer exchange, online modules and pilot workshops would build both knowledge and practical skills, directly addressing the needs highlighted in the national survey. So digitalization supports repair and reuse by making information transparent and accessible. Systematic digital records improve planning and traceability, allowing owners and professionals to follow a building's history, track interventions, and document decisions. Material passports add clarity. By recording the properties and reuse potential of components, they support circularity and help decide whether materials should be repaired, reused, or replaced. Advisory platforms and hubs provide practical support, sharing local reuse opportunities, offering guidance, and connecting owners with professionals. The key lesson is that tools must remain simple and accessible. Even basic, well-structured records can improve decision-making and reduce waste. Combined with passports and advisory hubs, digitalization can become a practical enabler of sustainable refurbishment. Funding is one of the most persistent challenges. Upfront costs often discourage owners from choosing low-impact options, especially when incentives are unclear or difficult to access. Accessibility improves when grants or small loans are available. These instruments lower immediate barriers and make routine repair more realistic. Targeted finance lines for everyday maintenance and repair are therefore recommended. Incentives are also needed to encourage reuse and circular practices. Without decided funding, reusable materials are often discarded. For larger pilot projects, blended finance models offer a way forward. By combining public support with private investment, they can demonstrate innovative approaches while sharing risks. The priority is clear. Funding schemes must be transparent, simple, and usable. When mechanisms are tailored to repair, sustainable choices become realistic and attractive. Estonian case studies show how practical actions can make refurbishment both sustainable and respectful of heritage. Routine maintenance programs prevented failures and extended building lifespans. Modest energy upgrades, such as loft insulation, draft proofing, and improved heating controls reduced energy use while keeping facades intact. Projects using local low-carbon materials lowered their footprint and supported regional supply chains, while small renewable additions complemented these efforts. Reuse of salvaged elements reduced waste and costs, while resilience measures such as moisture control and shading improved durability. So these examples from case studies demonstrate that small, well-planned interventions can deliver significant results. Repair, reuse, and sustainability can be combined in everyday practice, offering models that are feasible and replicable. The study identifies 4 main obstacles: shortages in skills, funding gaps, regulatory friction, and data limitations. These affect both owners and professionals, making sustainable choices harder to implement. Data limitations mean that the survey responses and case studies, while valuable, do not cover all groups equally and provide only a partial picture. Results must therefore be interpreted with care. But lessons still point to clear responses. Modular training and mentoring can close gaps in skills, ensuring that traditional crafts and low-carbon techniques are maintained. Targeted finance lines and incentives lower costs and make repair more accessible. Streamlined approvals and clear guidance reduce delays and uncertainty in the regulatory system, giving owners confidence to proceed with low-impact interventions. Digital records and material passports improve planning and traceability, supporting reuse and circularity. These lessons provide the basis for the recommendations that follow by ensuring that obstacles are addressed and repair becomes a realistic, sustainable option. Based on the gaps identified, the study proposes 5 priority actions. Repair programs and practical checklists for routine work should be launched to help owners carry out maintenance systematically and prevent failures. Capacity must be built through modular e-learning and local training pilots, spreading knowledge quickly while ensuring hand-on practice in repair and low-carbon techniques. Material passports and advisory hubs should be tested and deployed to improve planning, support reuse, and make circular practices easier to adopt. Targeted finance lines and blended models are needed, combining grants, small loans, and public-private schemes to lower barriers and allow larger pilot projects to scale. Finally, pilots and field trials should be run to demonstrate impacts and refine tools, building confidence, showing measurable results, and encouraging wider uptake. These steps form a clear roadmap for toolkit deployment, ensuring repair and reuse become realistic, accessible, and replicable in everyday practice. So in summary, the study shows that practical low-impact repair and upgrade actions deliver the best outcomes for everyday historic buildings. These measures are most effective when supported by clear governance, accessible finance, strong skills provision, and simple digital tools. The Estonian national study feeds directly into the EU Repair Toolkit e-learning modules and pilot projects, making sure that lessons learned are shared and applied more widely. The use of unique categories throughout the study guarantees transnational comparability, making these results relevant across all partner countries. And for more information or to join our upcoming activities, please contact our project team at the Estonian Academy of Arts. So, thank you.
Thank you, Triinu. Maybe some questions?
I have a very concrete proposal. Thank you. Actually, you just showed that when you start to calculate the things about what is the carbon footprint of all renovation, it is actually cheaper.
Yes.
To keep and maintain. And these studies all over Europe show the same at the moment. In Norway, they have done the analysis on the Trondheim buildings, and it shows the same, that when you look into detail, then it is exactly this heritage-based solution that we need. So I love this final thing. But taking account that we have it is 4 o'clock, and we have big cake there. And thank you so much, 30 people in Zoom who are still there. A big applause for the Zoom people.